Hello and welcome to our weekly IG Live. I am talking today to one of our longtime members and actually a founding board member of Multicultural Kid Blogs, Ute. We have been friends for I don't even know how many years. Hello. And have never actually gotten to do an interview like this before, so I'm very excited to do this. And she is an expert on multilingualism, multicultural family. That's Hold on, let me get her on
Hello,
here.
hi.
And maintaining languages and learning a new one. Hello,
Yes,
welcome.
it is.
It's so
Likewise.
nice to actually talk to you. Well, first, it's funny since we
It's
haven't really
Ute.
talked in person. I'm not even sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Don't
Is it
worry.
Ute?
I reply to all
Ute.
kind of
Well, see,
pronunciations
I'm
of
glad
my
to
name. No problem.
Well, why don't we go ahead and jump in and you can tell us, give us a little bit about your background and first maybe how you even got interested in this subject because it's what you
Yes, so
dedicated
thank
your
you
life
first of
to.
all for
So why are
inviting
you
me,
so
Liana.
passionate
It's really
about
a pleasure to be
multilingualism?
here on screen with you today. Well, what got me started, I wouldn't say I've dedicated my whole life to it, but I surely started in that way because I grew up multilingual, so with first Italian and German, growing up in Italy, and then I added other languages during my childhood and later on during my studies in Switzerland and abroad. So I was always surrounded by people who were talking different languages, so that was my normal. But I was also very much aware that it's not the normal for everyone, right? And well, although I really enjoyed it and I really immersed into the languages and also enjoyed very much learning new ones, even dead languages like Old Provençal or Old Catalan, etc. But I saw also that at some point, especially when I got mom myself, right? When you get your own children, you realize that somehow the whole world is a little bit amplified or slightly different from what you thought before. So before I knew from my studies in linguistics and literature and philology what to expect and that there is something like language attrition in societies and language loss. Okay, that's fine. And also what the different stages of language acquisitions are in children. Everything is fine, but when you have your own children, you start learning afresh, I think. Or you start also questioning
Right.
approaches, you start questioning strategies, because you see that maybe something that you thought must work for yourself, because I mean, so many have tried it, then doesn't. So what made me start helping families who are multilingual, multicultural, like my own and many families around me, was really when I saw that families were struggling, that they were not so sure about how to start, where to start, and how to continue. And especially when then maybe there were two or three children, or when the partner is not on the same page, or when the society is not on the same page, or yeah, that what made me start my business and do what I'm doing now, which I do I really enjoyed very much.
Well, for those that maybe aren't as familiar,
Yes.
can you give
Okay.
us like
It's
a
called
little bit of
Ute's
an
International
overview of
Lounge. You
what your
can find
business
it, yeah,
is?
well, in the link in the bio, like everyone says. Um, yes, I do support multilingual families maintain their languages whilst living abroad and also embracing new ones. So not only maintaining the language at all costs, but really being open and open-minded and welcoming to any other language or dialect or sign language that there is and that they need or that their children need in the most effective way. So that is in a nutshell what I'm doing. And what I focus very much on is the communication, so that the communication is as effective as possible, because talking about multilingual families, usually you have two, three, four languages, sometimes even eight. I had clients who had eight languages in the family. It was a patchwork family with six children, all, well, four of them were born in different countries. So you can imagine what that story or the journey looked like in that family, or looks like, because they're still on the journey. So.
It's funny listening to you talk about that. I wonder if that's more common in Europe than it is. As you know, I'm here in the US, and then when we talk about multilingual families, usually you're talking about bilingual families. Maybe that speak one other language at home. It's not as common to run into families that speak more than two languages. Is that more common in Europe, or is it also
yes, it's maybe because I'm
because you're working
working
with a lot of international families?
I don't know if it's really in Europe so much. I think it's a little bit worldwide. Just think about India, think about many African countries that have many languages. And but of course, here in Europe, we have, for example, Belgium or Switzerland that are multilingual, and many internationals living in different countries here in Europe, and who bring other languages to the plate, and that we have to juggle with and live with them every day. I think yes, it's a great challenge, but it's a very I find very encouraging and refreshing one.
Do you think that that's something that the multilingualism, that there is a lot of support for that? I mean, I think even in the US there is support for bilingualism, but it's something that is not I think maybe not as strongly. Do you think that's something that there is a lot of support for, or what? You started to talk about it a little bit about some of the challenges that families face. What challenges
So let's say,
are
to
the
answer
ones
your
that are
first
most common that you've
question,
come across?
how the support is, I must say it differs from country to country. Here in Europe, and I think worldwide, there is more awareness towards the fact that for children, maintaining and or being able to speak or to continue speaking and using the language that they speak with their parents is crucial. It's very important for so many levels, for the psychological well-being for them, but also for the bond, of course, that they have with the parents, emotional bond, etc. So that is a health aspect in maintaining the languages, absolutely. And more become aware of that. And support also languages in schools through different practices like translanguaging, or by welcoming other languages in the school, on the school ground, or daycare ground if you want, because we start very early. So the other question, what was the other question again? Yeah.
Just in general about challenges, because lack of support might
the
be
other
one challenge that
challenges,
families face.
well,
What are some of
I
the other
do work
challenges?
with multilingual families. Some are having maybe two languages at home, or one language at home, one in the society, and others have a lot of languages at home and a lot of languages also in the society or the community they are living. So I see it as a continuum of increasing complexity, which is very interesting, but also very challenging for every single family. So the challenges go from with what language and how do I start, right? If you are a multilingual parent yourself, maybe you have two languages that you speak very fluently. Which one should you speak with your child as primary language? Yeah, the one that you will always speak with your child, because at some point you can add other languages later on, but it's very important that you choose a language that you're very spontaneous in. From these questions up to which daycare, which school, when can we add other languages? Should we add other languages, or should someone else do this? What is the best school system for our children? Which is the best school? So here I do a shout out to the Language Friendly School, the organization that I really support wholeheartedly. And yes, a lot of other questions that come up, like in everyday life and in every family's life. So if there is any kind of major change that can affect the language use of the children, that is another thing, where then some parents don't know what is happening. Why is my child not speaking or not responding in the language that I expect or that we expect? And then, of course, on the other side of the continuum of very mobile families is also the fact, what are we going to do with our languages if we move to a place where we parents are maybe the only person that speaks the language with our children? How can we keep them motivated? Motivation is a huge thing, not only for children, but also for parents. Because if you live abroad for a certain amount of time, you also observe that your own language stagnates. Your vocabulary is not that rich anymore after a while. You keep on using the same words, and you notice that. And then you question yourself and say, how can I transmit my language that feels almost dead? It's not, of course, to my child. And those are issues or challenges that I work with, and I encourage parents to keep on going and to keep on looking for resources and support everywhere. So
Yeah, and what strikes me as you're talking is because you really indicated such a wide range of issues. Like you said, it depends on where you're living, depends on the family situation and background. And I know that's why it's so valuable that you offer working with families and creating their own, individual language plan, which is so useful because, like you said, there's so many different factors. And I know one that that you've talked about is you take into account their own culture and their traditions. Why is that so important? How does the cultural background affect
maybe I come back a
what
little
language
bit to
plan you might
how
come up
I
with?
consider the families. I consider them really like a little society. If you think of the terms of micro society, if you consider the family as a micro society, and you think of three concentric circles. The one in the middle is the micro society, the family. Then you have the community as a meso society, and then you have the society or the nation as a whole, that is a macro society. And I focus on the micro society, so on the family itself, the littlest kind of circle, for the reason that the way we organize our languages and cultures, the way we transmit also the values and beliefs and everything that is related with our culture and our languages in our family, we have the power over that. We can decide, we have the choice. Whereas everything that happens in the community or in the nation where we are living in, we cannot really change that much. Yeah. But what I always am very adamant about is to tell parents, you have to create that safe place for your child to use your language as they want and to their capacities. And then they can go out in the world and be these strong defenders of their right to speak their language, or also to be proud of their languages. We don't have to get into this topic, but it's very sad to see if then parents even consider maybe abandoning a language for political reasons, for societal reasons, because they feel threatened or not understood, or just not safe to use their language with their children. And there I say, no, at least at home, please maintain that language. You never know. I mean, political situations can change over time, hopefully. And then you don't want to miss that.
Right, and you also kind of already touched on this in your discussion, because I know one thing that you say is that you have a bottom-up approach, that you really do focus on children and family, and you already kind of explained some about why that's so important. But how is that approach different than how what some other approaches are? I suppose focusing like on a school, more like at the school level, or
we have to collaborate together. We don't exist in a bubble. But when it comes to families, as I said, we can change things within our family. We can agree on rules, we can agree on strategies, we can agree on everything when we are having dinner, and when we are talking one language or the other language, when we are playing games. But then we are also in contact, of course, with the society, and then there are other rules, and these rules need to be followed as well. And sometimes the world from outside comes in, and this is where, for example, we would welcome the languages from the society or the environment as well. So the bottom-up approach is really for that reason, that we start with the babies, okay? When they are born, we are their world, and we can create this world and make it safe and nurturing as much as we want and we can, and then prepare them for the world. But there is always this interplay between outside, so the meso or macro society, like I said before, and our own world. And the same also, the collaboration with teachers at some point is very important, that there is always a dialogue and not someone telling you what to do with your child, but you also responding, well, actually, I prefer doing this one. How can we make this work if we communicate in an effective way, and always having the interest or the health of the child as our first goal, and our own health, of course, as well.
Right. And one thing that I find so interesting about your approach is that, I mean, and on the one hand, you're very academic in terms of like your research, and this is, you know, in your own studies of linguistics, and yet you are really able to bridge the gap and turn it into something practical that families can use. And you've also talked about how you knew all the research, but then when you had your own kids, it was really different. So what was that like? How are you able to do that, like to take those tools? Because a lot of us, you know, we're just kind of trying to catch up on our own. This isn't our background or like our own, what we've done research on. So how are you translating those tools? I mean, translating that academic work into practical tools for families.
Sometimes I see the gap between what the research says and what the real life with children or with certain children shows us and challenges us. So the way I gap that is in a fun way. I always try to enjoy every step that I take. So, well, one way is, maybe I can mention that I organize these together with Tetsu Young, and previously also with Rita Rosenbach, the Raising Multilinguals Live. That's on YouTube and Facebook. You can follow us there. And there we invite experts who talk about topics related with raising children with multiple languages. And there we invite the experts and we ask them questions also from the perspective of parents. So what do I have to do with this, these results of your studies? So what does this mean? How can we translate this into practical steps? And are these practical steps actually something that everyone can do, or do we have to be careful of handling these situations or adapting them to certain contexts only? So I like to ask a lot of questions. Another way that I do this is through activities that I share. So I have written together with Ana Elisa Miranda the Toolbox for Multilingual Families. It's really very basic activities that I think many people will recognize and say, oh, well, I played this at some point. But that makes using our languages and fostering understanding, speaking, reading and writing in our children from 0 to 15 plus, that's the target group, in a fun and entertaining way. That is one. And then we have also a YouTube channel with Yoshito Darmon Shimemori, who was also a guest at these lives and is also a member of Multicultural Kid Blogs. And we have a channel that's called Activities for Multilingual Families. And there we share these activities that we have written about with examples. So this is one way that I try to give tools to parents. So one doesn't need to necessarily read tons of books, but try to get informed in this way and to get inspired.
I love that, especially because I feel like there is a lot of misinformation out there, especially, you know, we've all heard the idea that it's not good to teach children two languages or multiple languages from a very young age because it will slow their speech development, which of course we not true, but there are all these myths floating out there. So I love that you have this these different ways that you're helping people really understand the research and to be informed. And I also just have to add, as someone whose kids are getting older, my oldest is now 13, I also love that you have resources available for parents of older children. Of course, we know how important it is if you are able to start from birth, you know, that, and you have a lot of resources for that. But several other of us have kind of commiserated in the fact that there really is not as much available for once kids are older. So I really appreciate that you have resources available for that. And just to wrap up, because I know we're coming up on time, I would love to hear your thoughts on, because it, like you said, it is a lot of work and it can be kind of frustrating, and motivation can be a problem for the kids as well as the adults. How do you motivate people to keep going on this journey, because it is so worthwhile?
With a positive spirit, I would say. No, very, very spontaneously. Not really. Things can be interpreted in a very difficult way. I know that there are families who are facing difficulties, but I try to get them on board on getting really informed properly, and also to let themselves guide by the child, by the capacities and the skills the child has, and support the child the best they can. Then you cannot make a lot of mistakes. Although I don't like to talk about mistakes, because we need to make mistakes in order to learn. But on the other hand, staying motivated is also a very important part on this journey. And if we only compare ourselves to others, we might get demotivated when we see that things don't work like we expect, or like it works for our friend. So focusing really on what we can do, what we want to do, what we enjoy doing, then we cannot really make it's actually already a success per se. So.
I love that. And I have to say, for me, it is also very inspiring to get to talk to you. That is a big motivation for me to keep on going. So thank you so much for joining us. Anybody watch, I really encourage you to go visit her profile, and the link in profile, she has links to all of her resources, which, as she mentioned some of them, the really wonderful resource. She is so knowledgeable about this topic, and like we said, as far as the academic side and the
thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you so much for joining us
later. Thank you.
Yes, we will have it up on YouTube. I'll have it up this evening.